released any of these yet?
No.
Mm-hmm.
My goal is to have a few down before I start releasing, because I want to try to be regular in the releasing process, because I feel like there's something when you know, okay, it's like once a month or twice or every week.
Totally.
Then people can build the expectation. I used to just record it whenever and release it. So sometimes in a month I release 3 or 4, and then sometimes I don't do anything for 3 months.
Mm.
And it's not like, I don't even know who listens to this. I mean, I know like geeks like us listen to this. So I think they're very forgiving, but I'm trying to have a few in advance before I start. I'm just trying to grow up and be a little smart with this.
Very nice. Well, this is a good setup. You got a good start.
Yeah, I like it. So, Joe, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yes, it's awesome.
Yeah.
We've known each other for a few years now.
Yeah, I would say 3 or 4.
3 or 4.
Yeah.
Circling around in Vegas, in different stages, and seeing each other. And I've heard a lot about what you told me about, like you building up your show and having shows and your own performance, but also your company. What's the name of your company?
Throat Catch Collective. A few friends of mine in Australia, we all work together to make juggling shows.
Yeah. And then you did the Fringe last year in Edinburgh. What
2 years ago.
2 years ago,
we
you
took
did
our
Edinburgh.
show Escalate. Yeah.
Yeah. And where do you tour that show?
Infrequently is the answer. We play usually festivals with Escalate. And I should say, for context, Escalate is a show, we made it in 2022, or the couple of years before 2022, and then we premiered it that year with Byron Hutton and Richard Sullivan, who are 2 amazing Australian jugglers, and Sam Kreuzler, who's an amazing guitarist who learned a bunch of juggling for the show.
Very cool.
And I helped with the creation, and I'm usually on tour with the show as some kind of tour manager, production manager. And I've stepped into the show to do one of the parts a couple of times.
I remember you saying that was hard.
Yeah.
You realized when you did it that it was like, oh shit, it's a highly technical show.
It's an hour of juggling and music and musical juggling. And
so you need to be on cue. You need to be like on top of it.
Yes, you have to be. Every single catch in the show is choreographed. There's no room for flexibility.
How long does it take you to learn something like that?
We had 3 weeks in the room together last year before we took the show to a festival. And that was just enough.
Yeah.
But I think that was only because it was the very specific case of I knew the show. Right. And I had seen it already 50 times.
Right.
And I had helped make a lot of the parts of the show. And also I did a lot of homework for months before we were in the room. For about 4 months before we were in the room, I learned every part of the show solo that it was possible to do without another juggler.
Yeah.
So we could arrive in the room and just go on only the duo and trio stuff.
I mean, that makes so much sense, because I always feel like for me to learn just a solo juggling act that I create, it's at least like 6 months of practice. And just for 5 minutes, like to feel comfortable in like, and also like, because for me, I feel like in 5 minutes, I'm trying to like crank it up with like hard stuff, but also have the moments of like connecting with the audience, and then really learning the music and letting the music be in my body. And I feel like that process is like between 3 to 6 months of just running it over and over again until I feel I have it. And now I can think about something else. When I go on stage, I can listen to the audience, connect and to whatever's happening now, and listen to myself, and the choreography is just in the background. I don't have to think about it.
Totally.
And I'm alone, and it's 5 minutes. So I mean, I'm imagining like an hour.
Well, I'll tell you, it wasn't comfortable by the time I performed it. It was stressful. We could do it, and we got it to a point where we were happy to put it in front of an audience.
Right.
But I mean, I watch Byron and Richard do the show now. They've done it maybe maybe 60 or 70 times.
Right.
And when I see them do it, they did it at the European Juggling Convention just now in August.
Nice.
And I was there doing their production and watching. And that was a joy to watch because they're just cooking. They're not thinking about what's next. They're at that point you talk about where they are so comfortable with the material.
3 years and 70 shows and
something like that.
Hours and hours of repetition.
Yeah. We made our lives difficult with this particular show, Escalate. We made it over the course of about 2 years, and most of that was during the pandemic.
Right.
So we had a lot of time to turn inward on the material, and we made everything was just, we were going inward with more and more detail and more intricacy because there was nothing else to do. And we had no time pressure on when it had to be premiered. So the show is ridiculously detailed in a way that I don't think we could ever do again with the constraints that exist normally with creating a show.
Right.
But especially like a lot of it is, we have these long sections of musical juggling where it's like note perfect. The two jugglers syncopate.
And you said there's a guitarist?
There's a guitarist.
So there's live music?
Yes.
But there's also recorded music?
He's a guitarist and he's a genius is what he is. He's a classical guitarist and also a multi-instrumentalist, synthesizer, composer kind of guy.
Nice.
So large parts of the show he's playing classical guitar live and accompanying the juggling, but also he's playing a lot of like synthesizer and triggering a lot of stuff live.
Yeah.
So it's a mix of
so even if it's recorded,
it's
it's triggered live and it still follows the thing.
Exactly.
That's so much fun.
And he does a lot of juggling too.
That's awesome.
He learned a crazy amount for the show. We have a whole section of percussion juggling with clubs, and he's equal to the jugglers in that section.
Nice.
He's just on stage with
I
clubs.
always say that juggling is the visual music. For me, it's like if music is, you listen to it, if there would be a visual version of music, it's juggling.
I like that.
You know, because it's so rhythmical and it uses, I think, a lot of the same parts of the brain. And so I feel it's like extremely close to music. As a juggler, I tend to feel closer to musicians than to acrobats, for example, or like other people in the circus, like the other disciplines in the circus. I feel like juggling is more in the realm of music.
That's a really good point. I've found when I teach juggling, I find musicians learn juggling faster than athletes or acrobats or even people who play ball sports.
Yeah, because they already have the same whatever connections in the brain that we use when we juggle.
And it's this process of repetitive muscle memory, I think, in our practice that doesn't exist so strongly in a few other disciplines.
Yeah, because the other disciplines, the acrobats and handstand, trapeze, whatever, is like it's extremely athletic. It's not very, it's like extremely athletic. It's like Olympic level athleticism. Therefore, you can't repeat the move a gazillion times the way we do as jugglers. You know, like after 3 hours of flying trapeze, you're cooked for the day. Like you can't do 8 hours of flying trapeze a day. Like there's a moment the body can't do it. You know that you can juggle 8, 9, 10 hour a day. Yeah. you can actually spend your entire time juggling because the repetition it's a lot, but it's not as athletic than the other disciplines. So that's where it's like musicians too. You can practice 8 hours of music a day,
and you kind of have to.
And you have
want to become competitive in the world of music. And it's the same with juggling.
Exactly.
Like, I often feel like it's not impossible, but it is very difficult, I think, if you learn juggling as an adult to get to an extremely high technical level. It's quite difficult, not because there's anything... I mean, maybe kids inherently learn juggling a little bit faster because of neuroplasticity or whatever. I'm not sure about that. But I think it's hard to get great if you're an adult because you just need the time that only kids and teenagers have.
That's true.
And you speak to... I'm not sure when you started juggling, for example.
Kind of late. Seriously, when I was 18.
Damn, for real? Yeah. Okay, well, you're the perfect counterexample because you're technical.
No, but I did exactly what you say. I just locked myself in a warehouse and juggled 8 hours a day. And I was like, I was an adult, but I was like a really young teenager mindset adult, So it's like I was careless, carefree, and I just focused on that until I mean, my whole life. Like I think I went to Moscow when I was like 27 to learn with Nadezhda. So that was already like 9 years into a practice where I would practice 6 to 8 hours a day, every day, all the time. So it did take me like 10 years of,
for sure,
6 hours a day for 10 years to become decent, you know. So only by like 30, that's why I get to go Cirque du Soleil at 32. So it was late. Everything came late for me because I started late. So you're right about that.
I guess that time is harder. It's not impossible, but it's harder to come by as an adult.
That you have to make sacrifices. You know, like my sacrifice was like, well, I'll just, perform in the street, make a little bit of money, and just live on $1,000 a month for 15 years, and I don't care because I sleep in my truck. And I, in Europe, you can have this lifestyle, like this gypsy style lifestyle, and I was not looking for anything else. And I still had kids and a family and stuff, but I was like, this is what I'm doing, So I was very clear with that. So obviously there's some sacrifices that come with this where you have to make choices. But yeah, no, you're right. You're right. It is difficult.
Yeah, I really feel like
when did you start?
I was 6 when I first learned how to juggle.
That's pretty cool.
I started very young.
And so you right away you were like passionate about it?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to remember, but I just remember finding it and getting so obsessed with. My dad taught me to juggle 3 balls initially. He's not a circus performer or anything like that, but he knew how to juggle 3.
And he showed you?
And he showed me.
And then you're like, this is awesome.
I just got so obsessed because it was such a puzzle to crack.
Yeah.
And then you learn to do 3, and then you learn that tricks exist. And then you're like, oh my God.
So wait, 6 years old, when were you born? Because I'm trying to like place you in time.
I was born in 97, so I'm 28 now.
You're 28 now, 97, so around 2003.
2003.
So then there's internet.
Sort of. There wasn't for me.
Right.
I grew up in Tasmania, in the middle of nowhere. Well, a beautiful little town called Ulverston, actually. But we lived kind of far out of town, and we didn't have good internet in my house until we didn't have internet at all until I was 11 or so, 11 or 12. And then we didn't have good internet until I was about 16. So
sorry. I'm super curious. Like, then how did you come up with like tricks and stuff? Like, did you just discover them?
There was a youth circus in the town, and this was the craziest coincidence, that my dad had taught me to juggle and I got obsessed. And then in the town, in Ulverston, this small town of like maybe 6,000 people in Tasmania, there was a big youth circus where kids could go after school and learn to do circus.
Nice.
And that had been running at this point for maybe 4 or 5 years already.
Nice.
So I learned, we found out this existed. So I started going to classes there, and so did my sister when I was about 7.
Nice.
And then that was like...
So you were hooked.
I was in. And there was some...
What did you learn? Did you learn like juggling, but also other stuff? Where you're like curious about like a little bit of everything in the circus?
For sure.
Yeah.
And I went to classes at this youth circus until I was 17 or 18.
Nice.
So over that time, I tried everything a bit.
Yeah.
I remember really liking trampolining.
Yeah.
The only other thing I got really serious about was Diablo. And I performed that a little bit as a professional until I was maybe 22. And I haven't really touched it on stage since then. But so I dabbled in a bunch of other stuff.
Shows with them, I guess. Like how frequently were there? Like, was it like a once a year at the end of the season, or was it multiple shows?
To begin with, it was once a year at the end of the season. But I think something that was really helpful to me as I was developing as a performer was that between when I was about 11 and when I was about 16, for those few years, we were in a particular place where I was in a cohort of students who were all quite good at the youth circus. Most of them were a couple of years older than me, but we were this group that were all great, and quite a few of them went on to become professionals. And in Tasmania, if you want circus performers at your event, there kind of at that time weren't really any options except this youth circus from this town. So we got booked to do gigs kind of as professionals.
Yes.
Which I don't think would fly now. I'm amazed it flew then.
Right.
But we had this, like the head trainer at the time of the circus, Andy Trudgeon, was really into pushing us to take these gigs and deliver them at a professional standard.
Yeah.
So we would do not loads, but like maybe 20 or 30 shows a year.
That's amazing.
And we would be this little troupe of 10, this performing troupe inside the youth circus, and we like got paid.
Wow.
It was crazy.
Wow.
I have no idea. Like looking back, that's crazy that was allowed to happen, but it was amazing.
In a way, it made it real for you as a kid of like, oh, this is viable. Like you can do that and make a living out of it. Or
100%. Yeah. I was exposed to a bunch of things very young that I think like it was never in question what this world was like. Because also I grew up 2 hours from the Tasmanian Circus Festival, which ran every 2 years, which for a long time was the National Circus Festival of Australia. So I was going to that from age 9. And
so you grew up with that and was like, well, that's an option. You can do that.
100%.
Because for me, being born in Paris, it's like that was the opposite. And I mean, what made it possible was that my father is a musician. So I'm like, oh, you can be an artist and make a living. That was always like a reality for me. But the circus was an escape from the big city life that I did not like at all as a child. Like I felt quite depressed in Paris. It's like too big city, people are stressed, running around. During the winter it's can get gloomy and rainy for too long, and then I wanted to live a life of wonder, and I didn't find that in Paris as a kid. And so when I discovered the circus, I was like, okay, that's the escape. But it felt like nearly the opposite of what I was used to. And therefore, that became such a holy grail of like, oh, that's the life I want to live, because now I can break all the rules that I know and that I grew up in. And in a way, I don't know, I'm seeing your path being like you just grew into it, and it was a great environment for you to validate. Yeah, sure, you can be a juggler. You can do that. You can do gigs and people pay you for it. I mean,
it's so interesting to hear you talk about it now, because it makes me realize I think maybe I just took for granted that all of that existed. Yeah. Because even till pretty late in my life, until I was like 18, 19, 20, I was doing gigs at a professional level from about 17.
It's amazing.
But the whole time I had in the back of my mind, like, oh yeah, this juggling thing's fun, but I'm not going to do it for real. I wanted to be like an engineer for a long time. And I was like, yeah, okay, this is fun for now, and maybe the money from gigs will get me through university, but I'm going to go be an engineer. And I think it's maybe interesting to hear you say that, because I realized maybe I just took for granted knowing that the world of professional juggling existed. Just my whole life, that was this possibility that was there, which I was like, I don't know if I like that lifestyle, or I want to keep my options open. Yeah. It wasn't ever something I discovered. Yeah. It was just
always there.
It was always there.
Which I find, I mean, I tend to try to look at that and look at, my childhood and what was just there that you take for granted. I don't like using that term, because it's that you don't really value what you have if you take it for granted. But the good side of taking things for granted is that you don't realize how special it is. Therefore, it's normal. You just do that.
Totally.
For me, my father, a musician, was practicing his instrument every day. So I would, like, my entire childhood from age zero to until I left at 19 to go bust the streets and learn to be a juggler, I would come back from home or wherever, and my father was in the living room practicing his instrument. And that regularity, where I've never thought about, oh, this is special. I just like, well, this is how you do it. Therefore, when I started juggling, I just did that every day, all the time. And I never questioned that. And I never thought like, I don't really want to do it. I was just thought, no, that's what you do. You want to be an artist, a musician, a juggler, whatever. You do it all the time, every day, constantly. And I realized how grateful I am to my father to have set that example.
Yeah.
Even though it's completely, I realized years later that it's normal to me and I take it for granted. But most people, when I talk about them, like, oh my God, you're juggling 6 hours a day. Oh my God, like I could never do that. And I'm like, for me, I'm like, well, no, that's just normal. Like,
yeah,
that's not special.
What else are you doing with your time?
Exactly. I have that. So I don't know, that I tend to see that. And I think it's amazing that you had this childhood, like that set up a reality, a baseline in your reality where you're like, yeah, that's what you can't. That's an option. Do gigs. That's totally an option.
Yeah,
that's fucking awesome.
Yeah. I hadn't thought about it in quite that way, but it's totally true. And even just to have, again, as a baseline, just I go to my circus classes 3 times a week, and since I was 7 until I was 18. That was just a part of my life. Yeah. And I never even once, and like props to my parents who aren't circus people at all and had no idea what this world was.
Yeah.
But they found out this club existed and knew I was into this thing. So they paid for me and supported me to go to circus classes a couple hours a night, 3 nights a week. And that was just like, even, in periods of my childhood, sure, I get to 10 years old and I want to play tennis more instead of juggling. But still, I'm going to my circus classes 3 nights a week because it's unthinkable that I wouldn't do that. That's just part of my life. And I think that's a fortunate thing that was just always an assumption that that's where I'd be spending my time.
That's awesome. And it's also super healthy to be doing circus with other kids.
Yeah.
I think it's a great way to
I've got a lot of great friends still from that time. It was awesome. And a lot of the kids from, that youth circus have gone on to become amazing artists in the world.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's really an anomaly that exists in Tasmania in the way that it does, but it's amazing and it's still going. It's awesome.
There is those vortex, I feel, like those little vortex of circus here and there. Because so for me, I discovered the Cirque Éphémère, a very small circus in the Alps in France. And from age 13 to 18 in the summertime, I would go and join them and spend a month with them, 2 months with them during the summer holidays. And most of the young, like the children that were, or teenagers that was part of the circus, lived in the Alps around the circus, so they could go there like all year long. But for me, it was like this condensed moment of like spending a month or 2 with them. But same thing, a lot of the young teenagers that were part of this circus throughout like the 90s, I guess, now would be the time, became professionals. And there's a little vortex of like suddenly like 10, 15, 20 people that really got into it, and we all got to cross paths and become professionals. And it's interesting how it works. It's like
it's the magic of a scene.
Yeah,
there are scenes.
Yeah,
for everything, but in particular, like for juggling, for sure, exist and pop up and exist for a few years and then dissipate.
Right.
And I was talking to my friend Jay about this a while ago. Like it feels like as an artist and as a technician, you always have to be on the hunt for where is the scene. For juggling, I think for sure there was a scene in Stockholm around the school for a bunch of years in the 2010s.
Yes.
Which for sure still exists, but there was like something magical and big going on there in the early 2010s.
And there's so many
Stockholm.
good jugglers that came out of this.
For sure.
Yeah.
And there's a scene, I think there's a scene in Australia right now based around Melbourne and Adelaide. There's an amazing generation of younger jugglers who are all 18 to 22.
That's really
and
cool.
they're all pushing each other, and they have their own culture. They have something going on. That's a scene. The scene, I've never been, but there seems to be a scene in Japan right now, like especially with the technical clubs guys. And I just find it so interesting. You can just spot these little moments in time where these groups of people exist who just push each other in this crazy way. Like maybe there was a scene in Austria 10, 15 years ago with Jugglissimo, and you just end up with the best club passes to ever exist. Where the hell did that come from? It was just 4 guys who got really into club passing.
Yeah.
Like, and you just, I feel like you can always be on the hunt for these little scenes. And something I think is interesting is you can totally artificially make them exist. It's totally possible to, like, with the right energy and input, and it takes some time, but you can create a scene. You just have to make sure enough of the right people have the right motivations at the right time in one place. But, you know, like that was something in Australia, like with our company Throw Catch Collective in COVID, like we put in some pretty significant time and effort to try and find younger jugglers who we thought seemed really interested and didn't necessarily have an output or a place to be. And we just connected them all with each other and ran a bunch of workshops with everybody. And then now that has turned into its own thing, and they're their own group of amazing jugglers with their own culture.
That's very cool.
That I think you can, like, kind of create it out of, like, if you spot the right people around.
I feel like it's like the sharing the passion. Like, you know, when you're passionate about something, it's just contagious. Especially for me as a kid, like, you know, like in the Cirque Éphémère, clearly the owner and the couple that was running the circus they were just passionate about this. This was their life. And then there's this commitment to the passion because it's your life. And that's very inspiring. I guess maybe it comes down to, like, having a life's purpose. And then be like, that's inspiring. And then I was like, oh, you can live your life doing that. They were an example for me and an inspiration. And then you have to have your own determination and your own passion and your own will to keep moving forward. But if multiple people have that strength or that vision and they come together, then it creates that. Yeah.
And I think if you're into soccer or baseball or computer programming or painting, it is a lot easier to find people who are into the same things as you and feel heard and listened to in your own community with relative ease. But if you're into juggling, it's just amazing. Like, if as a kid, every time you find someone else in the world who is into this thing like you are, and because it's so rare, it's crazy. It's amazing the effect that can have, is just realizing that there are other people out there. I mean, especially as a kid, like, I think if I were a teenager and I didn't already, like, if I were a teenager and juggling weren't already a cool thing in my mind because of the internet and because of a bunch of cool people I'd met who were jugglers, I for sure would have dropped it, because, like, I'm a teenager. I want to be like people I think are cool.
Right.
And I feel so lucky that I already at that point had friends and influences and a community in juggling. And that meant that I could conform to that group of people.
Right.
That's all a teenager wants to do.
Right. So when did you, because you said you wanted to be an engineer, when did you actually decide to become a professional juggler? Was there a decision?
No, there was never really a decision.
It just kept happening.
It just kept happening. I was doing these gigs with the youth circus for, you know, my whole childhood and teenage years. And then I took school very seriously and really enjoyed it. And
Good for you.
Wanted to get to university and...
Really?
I loved it.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, always been super into it.
Regardless of the teachers, regardless of, like... Because for me, if I had a really good teacher, I was excellent at school. But good teachers are pretty rare. I mean, at least for me in Paris, it was like I had one good teacher a year in one in matière, one discipline. And then I was really good at that discipline. So I have, in my as a kid, 1 year I was good at math, 1 year I was good at history, 1 year I was good at French.
Totally.
But other than that, I was terrible because I was not inspired. It was really coming from the teachers, like as a kid.
I guess, I mean, yeah, good teachers
changes everything.
It's crazy.
But you were still like motivated no matter what.
I feel like I got pretty lucky with teachers my whole childhood. I lucked out a lot and had some really amazing people to look up to in a bunch of different
Tasmania sounds
fields.
like a great place to grow up.
Oh, it's the best place in the world. Don't tell anybody.
That sounds awesome.
Keep it secret.
Yeah.
But anyway, I took school very seriously. So like, even when I finished high school, I took a year off and I did a whole load of gigs. I was working a lot and I was traveling and
you were traveling.
I went to Europe for 3 months.
Oh yeah, you did. Okay.
Did a little like backpacking trip, but I was doing a bunch of gigs there. And then
so you were like 19, 20?
18, 19.
18, 19?
Yeah.
Good for you.
And
I feel like nowadays it's like you don't start doing adventurous stuff before you're like 35 years old or something.
In Australia, I think this is less common everywhere else, but in Australia, a lot of kids will take a year off between high school and university. And a lot of people will try and spend that time traveling as much as possible.
Get out of the island, basically. Like, get the fuck out.
And that's something that I just thought was the case everywhere, but I think is pretty, especially common in Australia.
It's not everywhere. Yeah. I don't think it's everywhere.
But I did that and I was gigging around. But then, even then, I started university for physics and engineering in Melbourne, and did that for a few years. And I was so stubborn the whole time. I was like, clearly I had a juggling career. And I think I never wanted to make the decision of I'm going to be a performer. And so I was still taking university seriously and studying everything. But I was like,
Where did that come from? Do you know? Not making the decision. Is it because, I don't know, are your parents artists or was
they're not. My dad, he's retired now, but he was a doctor, and my mum's a physiotherapist.
What were their perspective on you being, a circus freak?
They were cool about it. My sister's a performer as well.
Okay.
She went to the same youth circus.
Yeah.
She's a hula hooper now and works professionally. So I think they were a bit freaked out by both of us doing this circus stuff. But the whole time they were just like, and I think this is why I took university seriously. The whole time they were like, just have a backup plan.
Yeah.
Like you can do both.
Right.
And I think it's true.
Which is not a bad idea. Yeah.
I was at university for 3 years and I finished with my degree in physics. And I think if I hadn't been at university, my career would have been advanced by maybe a year or a year and a half.
Right.
But for the first year I was at university, I was doing gigs, but I wasn't booked solid. And I kind of could do both for almost the whole time I was studying. I was on weekends and semester breaks and term breaks and everything. I was traveling and doing shows. But through the semester, I was able to do corporates at night and do uni during the day.
Nice.
And it didn't feel like I had to make a decision. I was like, I'm just going to keep doing both until I have to figure it out.
So then what happened?
I got very, very lucky. I graduated I burned out a bit in my last year. I definitely pushed it too hard. Me and my sister were producing a show that we were touring a little bit, and I was doing a lot of corporate gigs, and I did a touring show and a whole bunch of things, and I was doing my last year of physics study. So I burned out really hard.
Yeah.
It was kind of tough. But that was the first moment where I felt like I hit a point of I can't do both of these things.
Right.
And
until
that point, it felt like I could.
Yeah.
But what made the decision is I had my last exam and I was thinking about going into a master's program for physics, but I wasn't really sure. And I knew I wanted to take at least a year off and do a few of the longer gigs that I hadn't been able to do because of school. But I did my last exam, and 2 days later, Tony Pezzo, who works in Vegas here, sent me a message and was like, hey, we need someone in the Water on Mars act in Absinthe for a year, starting in 2 months. Are you busy? Right. So that felt like a pretty clear lightning bolt of like, let's do that.
And then you came here and then you never left.
Well, I moved here and started shows in February of 2020.
That was
Yeah.
So you went through the whole pandemic thing
I went back to Tasmania.
You went back.
I did shows here for 1 month with Water on Mars,
and then
in
it
Absinthe.
Just closed.
And then the show closed, and 2 days later I went back to Australia.
Yeah, you're like, fuck this, I'm not just hanging around. And that's when you started your company and
yeah,
was working with
we had been working together already for a long, like maybe 6 years. Just
wow.
low key, like, you know, and Byron and Richard had been working together for even longer than that. But that was in 2020 and 2021. We were all in the same place and not busy for long enough to make a new show, incorporate the company, get a bit of funding, do all the real company stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I spent all of COVID in Australia, and then I moved back to Vegas in September of 2021. And I've been mostly here ever since.
Yeah. With your travels, this is amazing. And how are your parents feeling now?
They're pretty happy.
Yeah,
they're sad that I'm here. They wish I was in Australia.
Far away.
Yeah. And
I remember meeting your parents at the coffee shop 2 years ago or something.
Yeah, they came to visit a couple of years ago. That's still the only time they've come. I think they're going to come again in a few months.
Yeah.
But they came here. I mean, they're awesome. They're so happy for me and my sister. And I've got so much respect for them, like, for me and my sister both to get into this world that is unstable.
Right. It's like both the kids are doing that.
Yeah. It's so alien to them.
Yeah.
It involves travel. We're far away from them. It's not what you want your kids to be doing if you're a parent.
Right.
And they're so cool with it. And they're so, like, they've really worked hard to learn what this world is like. And I've just got so much respect for them for, like, rolling with it.
Yeah.
I think they could probably see that both of us were pretty obsessed and we weren't going to be doing anything else.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
where is your sister
so cool
now?
them.
Where is she working?
Right now, she's in Vienna working for Palazzo.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
She's done the last few winters in Germany working for them.
Is she older, younger than you?
3 years older.
3 years older.
Mm.
So she was a little bit of an example for you?
For sure.
In your like youth as a circus performer?
Yeah. I think there was some competitiveness. She started classes at the youth circus a little bit before I did, because she was older and she was allowed to start. And we were just so competitive, and we both were, like, so into circus. So I think that also really helped, the fact that her and I were both, like, we were putting on shows at home, and we were obsessed. We were buying all the Cirque du Soleil DVDs and watching them on repeat.
Yeah.
Like, we really, and it's just the two of us. We're the only two kids, so we both were, like, completely obsessed. Forever.
Yeah, and 3 years is not too far apart to not find common ground. I mean, it's a lot when you're a kid, 3 years, but
yeah, but it meant that we could hang out.
Yeah,
as kids. Yeah.
That's very cool, man. That's very cool. So with your juggling, like, you're talking about, you know, discovering juggling and realizing, like, oh, there's a code to crack, and it's like doing those puzzles, or like the Rubik cubes, or this practice of, like, figuring something out. And then for me, once I do, my body starts, it's becoming familiar to my body, and I love that journey of, like, anchoring that feeling of each pattern or trick in my body. And now I'm nearly at the stage where I'm not really interested in developing new tricks. I'm interested in deepening my mastery of, you know, just I love the basic 5-ball pattern or 7-ball pattern or the 6-ball in sync or whatever, like the basic pattern, and do those where I see it a little bit like a martial artist, where you're doing Tai Chi for like 50 years, and then you're becoming a Tai Chi master, where, like, the movement is the same. You repeated the same movement a gazillion time, and now you're controlling every millimeter, gram aspect of the form. So it's not necessarily like doing more stuff visual for the outside world. It's more like getting deeper into this inside world of just me, how I feel the juggling,
Damn.
And I feel
that rules.
Yeah, I feel like
that's so cool.
Thanks. and I feel like it's infinite because you can never stop mastering on that depth. Anyway, I was talking
Fear
about
the man who's juggled 5 balls a million times.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Yeah. and so I was thinking about, like I really resonate with what you said about like, you're a kid and then you're discovering that and you're like, oh my God, let's crack the code. Let's go for this. And I'm wondering like, how did juggling evolve for you? Like, cause you started at 6, so you've been juggling 20 years now. So what are the different phases you've been through, or if there's any?
Oh man, there have been so many.
You're right.
I mean, juggling for me, when I juggle, I'm doing one of maybe 5 different activities. If I go and train, like I can go to the training center and train during the day and then do a show that night and then come back home and like jam with 3 balls in my living room before I go to bed. And those 3 things to me feel like completely separate activities. It doesn't feel like I'm doing the same. Like they don't all fall under just the blanket of juggling to me.
So how do you define that?
Well, I think like to talk about the evolution, like I think everyone when they I think almost everyone when they learn to juggle, they for a while after that their only consideration is technique and technical. And that was the case for me. I learned to juggle 3 balls when I was 6, and then you start asking the questions, well, how does 4 balls work? Yeah. And what are the tricks? You get a Cirque du Soleil DVD, watch all the jugglers, get the Anthony Gatto DVD, add more and more and more balls, and it's just all technique. And I think that was like the first 5 or 6 years of my juggling as a child. But there are 2 key points where like the way I thought about juggling shifted, or maybe a new way of thinking about juggling was added to my repertoire. One was when I was 11 or 12, we had a new head trainer come and start at Slipstream Circus, like the youth circus that I was at. And he was a juggler and also like a kind of a flow guy, did poi and contact and stuff and everything. And he came to run the youth circus, and he introduced me to thinking about juggling as like some kind of expression.
Right.
So that was the first time that I was like, he really pushed us to be musical and to choreograph and to that, like juggling to me, I think I started to enjoy from juggling what people enjoy from dancing. I'm a terrible dancer, but you move in a certain way to music and it just feels great. And that when I was about 11 or 12, that's when I just started to discover that's what juggling could be for me.
That's pretty cool. It's pretty young to
I felt so lucky I had that influence that early.
Yeah.
And I saw also at that time, just at the circus festivals and stuff, I saw some really formative performances.
Yes.
So I was like, oh shit, like it's
can
not
do that.
just about technique, or you can use the technique to move and to dance. And that was when the musicality, I played drums as a kid as well. So the musicality, it just started really affecting everything I did.
Nice.
And then I think the next big shift that came in how I thought about juggling was when I was about 19 or 20. I'd just taken a year off, been to my first EJC. Again, there were a couple of festivals in Australia where I saw some stuff that just blew my mind. And I realized, okay, juggling can be not just expressive, it can be emotional. And it can be, I guess it can be art. And I think I maybe thought before that I was like, yeah, of course. If you asked me, I would say juggling is an art. But I think when I was about 19 is when I really started to understand myself, what it means for juggling to be art.
And so what does it mean?
I can understand it in myself. I don't know if I can explain it.
It's the hardest thing to do, but I'm curious.
Well, it's the what is art question. I think it's basically you can create juggling that exists. How to put this? Someone can create a piece of juggling that exists, and I can have an entire emotional response and dialogue with it separately to what its creator intended.
Right.
It's not just someone it's possible to make juggling that isn't just delivering entertainment to my eyeballs. It's something someone can create a piece of work that I can have a relationship with,
right,
internally.
So basically, what you create will reach further than what you intended to do. It has its own life of itself.
Yeah, I guess so.
That's when it's becoming art instead of pure entertainment.
I suppose, like, you know, when someone makes, there are some pieces of juggling that I've seen and pieces of art that I've seen where it just feels like someone is breaking off some little piece of the universal truth that exists between everybody, and they're breaking off a piece of it and stylizing it and wrapping it in how they express themselves. But it's just, they've got a piece of truth there. Somehow they've grabbed something, and somehow they've done it by fucking juggling. They've grabbed something that is just so true and real and exists between us all. And like, they've put that on stage, and I watch it and I feel a certain type of way. And I just saw a few performances in those years when I was 18, 19, where I was like, whoa.
This is beyond.
Because I think before that, I loved the craft of it, and I loved making a routine that was fun to watch and all of those things. And still, that's a huge part of what I enjoy about juggling. And that's most of the work that I do.
Right.
But that was such a light bulb moment of like, it can be something
So
deeper.
when did you start trying to do that? Like, did you ever try to do art, to think like, okay, this is a piece of art, and versus, you know, an entertaining piece of nice looking juggling?
I had some attempts. It's something I've always struggled to emphasize in my work, partly because so much of what I make needs to exist for very particular reasons, and I got to pay the bills. So I think it can be a little difficult to, like, at least for me, to go a more unsafe route and make something that feels a little more artistically true, as opposed to like something that I know people are going to have a good time watching. But I think, I mean, I remember when I was 15, 16, I was really having a stab. Like, I'd just watched whatever. I'd watched Patrick Elmnett's act, and I'd watched a Wes Peden video, and I was like, okay, I'm going to try and make what I think of now as maybe art-themed juggling. But I think when I was 19 or 20, that was the first time that I had a crack at making some things that were really artistically true. And I never performed them that much. But when I was at university, I made like 3 or 4 pieces with a lighting designer there that felt like they could just exist as, they existed as like purely pieces of art rather than like entertainment performances. So I think I was experimenting with it a bit from then. And then I think the first time I dove in really intentionally with a purely artistic intent was when we made Escalate together. And that was like, okay, well, we've got all this time. We don't know if we're ever going to be able to do a live show again. So all constraints were gone, and we just focused on the juggling. And like, now if we have no constraints at all about what product this has to be, what can we make?
That's fascinating. That is fascinating. For me, I don't have a value judgment on, you know, art versus entertainment, because circus is entertainment, and for me, the way I see circus is like the lowest art form of all. And I don't say that with the judgment value, but it's like, you know, you think about it and you're like, classical music and opera, singers, opera, blah blah blah. Like you're like, and classical dancing, and then dance, and then you have the movies, and like the you know, like the all the amazing movies throughout the year. Not like the Hollywood blockbusters. I'm talking about like art movies and theater, and circus is always the most basic. In French we say popular, but I know it doesn't ring the same in English. But it's like popular means like from the people, for the people,
Accessible.
So it's another tent. It's you know, like it's the most modest art form and the most accessible. You bring the kids on Sunday and everybody's eating popcorn and shouting, and the clowns are like, all right, I want to hear you clap louder. You know, like there's this thing that's very entertainment based. And I think that's, if you create a scale with, you know, and you start ranking the art form, and I did a lot. I performed in operas. I was like a singer and a clown, and in operas
You were a singer?
Yeah, but because I was a clown, so I was singing as a clown. So I was not a good singer, but I was singing with other opera singers. You know, like the other ones were really good ones. And then so I've been part of that world where you're like, oh, that people see themselves differently. You're an opera singer, or you're part of the opera scene. It's serious, you know. People, you know, it's like an elevate art form. You're singing fucking Mozart and Beethoven, and you know, it's like there's a different perspective on that, and every art form has its own world. And for me, circus is the most accessible, the most modest on so many different levels. You know, like look at our changing rooms, even here on the Strip, in the biggest stages of the world, for example at Absent, because we both worked at Absent, changing rooms are like, we're changing in the basement next to the sewage, you know, and you're like, they don't do that in the opera house. I can tell you.
Walk across the parking lot,
and you walk across the parking lot to get to the stage, and
Totally.
whether it's like 45 degrees outside or minus whatever, it doesn't matter. And for me, I learned to like it. I learned to appreciate that, and not to think like, I'm a juggler. It's like, no, we are there to entertain people. This is what people expect, and I found the artistry in that. So I love, and I mean, I'm also big on art because I grew up in Paris, and so it's like, I mean, obviously I've been impacted by the highest art form you can think of, but I do like to visualize circus as being in the middle of those extremes. And how do you make an elevated piece of art while keeping it thoroughly entertaining? For me, you don't have to do the trade-off.
Totally.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, the art of, like, you look at some of the greatest cabaret and variety acts of all time, which definitionally are entertaining, and some would say like definitionally commercial, and they are pieces of art.
Yeah.
They're honed and crafted, and it is such an art form to create the engaging 6 minutes that's going to take you around the world. And I'm just so in awe of people who've made these incredible variety acts. Yeah. I think there's something with circus that's so honest, where at the end of the day, and maybe what differentiates it from acting is, I think in circus, the technique is always going to be a focal point. Because if it's not, then you're doing dance or acting. Right. Like, and maybe I don't know enough about dance or acting to make that call. Right. But I would say with circus, like, it is such a definition of the art form that you can't escape, that you're there doing tricks for people that they're going to be wowed at. And no matter what your intentions are in circus, if you're using circus to express yourself, you're doing it in a way that invites some form of spectacle. And
I think that part of its essence.
Yeah. And I think that's something that should be celebrated. Like that's why circus is circus. That's why what we're doing is circus and not dance. I think that if you're doing dance, you have slightly different intentions. And that's something I love about circus. And I love that honesty of, like, you know, just embrace it. Like, put 7 clubs at the end of your act because you think it's cool. Who cares? Like, it's not. I think people can, like, I don't know. It's possible to have such an internal crisis about, like, but what does the art necessitate? But also, like, we're here at the end of the day one of the many things we're doing among all of our other intentions is we're giving a bit of spectacle.
Yeah.
So you want to put in a cool trick because you think it's a cool trick?
Yeah.
Fuck yeah, go for it.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's what's so cool and honest about circus.
Yeah.
So I totally agree with you.
Yeah. I like what you're saying about the honesty, because I feel like circus is one discipline where you can afford to be true to yourself on stage, in a sense of like, the closer you are to who you are on stage is not a weakness. Because the same thing is like acting. Well, you want to act a character. You know, you're acting into a character. So I'm pretty
And you can't do 7 clubs in character.
Yeah.
Or at least I should say I can't.
No,
You're going to be seeing flashes of honesty.
Yes.
Because someone is doing something. They're for real doing it.
Yeah.
And that's what differentiates it from acting. Like,
or from illusion, magicians.
Totally.
You know?
Yeah.
Because we're like, it still looks like impossible. You know,
Yeah.
7 clubs for people that don't juggle is like, what? Like that looks impossible. But it's real. It's real magic. It seems magical, but it's actually happening.
Yeah. And I think you're right. I think circus benefits from the person on stage being closer to who they really are, because the maskers are going to have to slip at some point.
Yeah.
If they're doing something that's difficult, and
They can't.
like we say, circus is about bringing some level of spectacle and difficulty. The mask is going to have to slip. So like there is an honesty there.
Yeah. And that's there's a juggler, Laurent Cabrol, really good French juggler that influenced me a lot when I was, I don't know, 25 years old. And he was the one telling me, you know, every juggling trick has a story to tell, has an emotion, has a color, has a character. So you don't have to add a layer of your own character or a narrative or something. You also have to make space for the juggling trick to express itself, because the 6-ball will tell a different story than Milsmess, which is going to tell a different story than Poi or whatever. And every trick has its own story, has its own color. And I was like, yeah. And so being honest and true to yourself and focusing on the technique also reinforce what the technique tells within itself, if that makes sense.
100%. There's so much to say there, but that's someone who's been a huge influence on me, especially in the last maybe 5 years of my juggling, has been Jay Gilligan, who's, he's so influential on the whole art form. But I really love, I love the way he describes juggling exactly the same thing. Juggling technique has a character and if we're choosing to express ourselves with juggling technique, then let's do it with juggling technique. You know, you can add other dramaturgical layers on top of that if you want, but there's a reason I'm choosing to do 3 clubs instead of 4 clubs or 3 rings, because it feels like intuitively the clubs feel different to watch and they feel different to do on stage than 3 rings do. And so let's pull that thread and follow that rabbit hole and see what else the clubs have to say, which sounds so pretentious to say. But there's reasons we're making those choices.
Yeah.
And you can really follow that and drill down onto that and be like, okay, well, if I like the clubs because they feel more frenetic than rings can, then why don't I go into my toolbox of frenetic tricks? And why can't I make some more frenetic tricks? And then now you can build an entire performance around just the technique. And it's so expressive on its own.
That will tell a story by itself.
Yes.
And it's a little bit what you're saying about art, which for me, the more I tried to tell stories a lot when I was younger, you know, like in my art and in my juggling, in my performances. And then I realized that when I got feedback from people telling me what they perceived as being the storyline or the narrative of what I was doing, I realized, oh, they're seeing something completely different than what I planned on sharing. And then,
which is not necessarily a bad thing.
Which is awesome.
Yeah.
Which on the spot made me, once in my life, I said to someone, and when I was very young, I was like, nah, you didn't get it. That's not what I was expressing. And I saw the expression on their faces. And I realized, oh, I made a huge mistake. Because if it's art, and if what I'm expressing is really, the goal is to share it with the audience. Sharing means once you share, it means letting them make of it whatever they want. If I'm trying to control how they receive it, it's not sharing anymore. And so it made me understand what I'm doing is public. It's like doing a performance is being part of the public realm. And once the performance is done, it doesn't belong to me more than to them. And the memory that the audience will have of my performance is as valid as my own definition of the performance. And so to let go of that. And then I realized the less I try to tell a story, the more I create space for the audience to fill in the blank and create their own story. And that's where it's linking to what you're talking about, art, of like, yeah, a strong piece of art is when you have a strong emotion, but you also have space to make up your own story about it. And so it resonates with your truth and with you.
You can have a relationship with it.
You can have a relationship with it.
I mean, that's what I view as a real strength of juggling. It's many, many things, but it's not articulate as an art form. It's never going to translate. If you have an internal intention of telling a narrative, that is never going to read to an observer in the way that it would if you were writing a play or a book, or even through photography or something. It's abstract.
I think I was naive when I started, and I thought I could give a stronger, I was like, no, what I have to say is important. Like, listen to me.
But then also watching, I mean, if you have a strong internal intention and direction because of that narrative, that I think is going to carry through in your juggling in a way that makes it very strong to watch.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean that they're going to understand.
They're not going to get the same thing.
What I'm trying to say.
Yeah. It's an abstract art form.
Yeah.
And I for whatever reason, not that I know a whole lot about art, but I gravitate towards abstract art.
Yeah.
That's always what I like the most. Something with a lot of room for interpretation.
I do too, actually.
Yeah. And that's
that's
such a strength
why.
of juggling.
Yes.
Yeah. And I've
never made the parallel of that. You're right.
Yeah.
Juggling is an abstractive art form.
Yeah.
But it's weird because it's so, the technique, it's so real and material and like anchored in like concrete of like, I do a trick, look at the trick. And yet it is completely abstract.
But then so is any abstract art form. Like take the big color fields or something.
True.
Very specific pigments of paint that they're using.
That's
and
true.
They're being very deliberate about it.
Yes.
Klein or whatever.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, it's creating something that is not rooted in real world imagery.
Yes.
It only exists in the material space between you and it.
Yeah. That's a very good point. I remember visiting the Picasso Museum in Paris, and all the first levels are, like everything we can imagine about Picasso, his cubism and this and that. And then at the very last top, level, you go in, and then there's a few paintings where I was like, oh, that's not Picasso. Because he was like completely romantic, or like all the traditional art forms. And then you're looking at, oh no, it is. It's when he was young and studying. And the guy could paint in any style. And then once he mastered the technique, then he was able to break it down and create something new and go beyond. And then you look at it and you're like, you think like a child did that. And and that's when it hit me. I was like you said, it's like abstract art is not just, you don't know what you're doing, so you just putting something. No, it's the opposite. It's like once you master the technique, then you go beyond.
You got to have all the tools to know which ones not to use.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, that's the classic and just the most boring conversation around any kind of abstract art is someone looking at a painting that's a big color field or something and saying, well, I could have done that.
Right.
Like,
it's
so boring.
Right.
Like,
right.
It's, well, did you?
Right. Hey, try. Just try.
Yeah. And did you? And
it's just going to look brown.
And like, and also like it's, I don't know. It's like with visual art, you know, with painting, we got over in the time of the Dutch masters, like they approached photorealism and we pushed technique and we pushed the spectacle of technique. And then 400 years ago, people started using their technique to express something else.
Yeah.
And we got impressionism and whatever. I don't know anything about art history, but we started pushing away from photorealism in painting because we were like, okay, well, the technique has taken us as far as we can go in this very expository technical direction. Now let's see what else we can do.
Yeah.
And it's the same with juggling. Like, I think circus is having that moment now.
Really?
I think
Tell me more about this.
Well, you look at the rise of contemporary circus. I think the conversation is uneven and it's being had in different pockets all over the place.
Right.
But you look at the rise of contemporary circus in the last 20, 30, 40 years and contemporary juggling. And that to me, like that phrase contemporary to me means like using technique to express something other than spectacle or something other than technique, like trying to be expressive with the technique. And I think we are doing that. We're using our technique to try and do something, express something else.
So that's where I'm at, because now I'm starting to become an old fart in the circus, which is true. You know,
how old are you?
45.
45? Are you really?
Yeah.
You look great.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. But I'm 45. So I, you know, like my age now, I'm starting to be, if I'm part of a circus show, I'm usually one of the oldest guy around, you know, because circus is mostly 20, 30. Juggling, we're great because we can last much longer with juggling, and that's what I'm planning on. So I'm planning on juggling till the rest of my life, really. And I don't think it's like clowning, you know, you can be Charlie Chaplin's and do an amazing job at 80 years old. And so I think it's the same thing with juggling. At least I'm going to try, and I'm going to be my own experiment with that as I age. But I was inspired. For me, I saw everything in Paris in the late 80s and all throughout the 90s. And from my perspective, contemporary circus was born late 80s, early 90s. And then I was in Paris, so like all the contemporary stages, you would just come through Paris at one point or another. So I was very lucky. I saw like everything that was new at that time, and that really gave me that vision for like, oh, okay, traditional circus, I get it. And I love traditional circus because of what we were talking about earlier, about the craft and polishing a variety act for decades and making it like a real jewel. And so I really appreciate their timing and their sense of their sense of technique, I'll say. But the contemporary part, they were really breaking all the mold and all the rules of the act and creating those long form shows. And I got inspired by that. And then Cirque du Soleil came in, which from my perspective is not contemporary circus, is more a revisited traditional circus, because they're still respecting the traditional format, but they did add a whole new layer of artistry with the costumes, with the music, with the choreography,
Totally.
and the intricacy, which is great, you know. But and that form was able to come in North America and on the Strip in Vegas and all around the world. And personally, then throughout the 2010, and now we're in like the 2020s, I've seen the same shit over and over and over and over again for the past 20 years. And I am kind of like looking around and be like, where's the new stuff? Because you whatever's contemporary at one time doesn't stay contemporary for the next 30 years, because now it's not contemporary anymore. It's just repeating itself. So I've seen the birth of it, and I've seen people exploring it. And right now, I must also admit that I don't necessarily seek a lot and see a lot, but whatever I see just reminds me of what I've already seen. So I feel that there is space and something about creating something new, but I haven't seen it yet.
That's interesting. I mean, I've been watching circus nowhere near as long as you have. So perhaps I've only seen one or two iterations of this repetitive like cycle that you're talking about. But I would say, I can't speak to that, but I would say if that's true, I think maybe part of why is like in circus, we don't have many institutions and we don't have much of a formal history that we keep with ourselves. Like there are histories, but we don't have like perhaps the dance world or definitely the visual art has a like very clear, concrete system of cataloging and referencing and historicizing, and we don't have that so much in circus. So I think a lot of the time, like people are making stuff in Australia, people are making stuff that's influenced by the big influences in Australia, Circa and Gravity and Other Myths, which have their own roots and influences in people like Seven Fingers, which have their influences from Cirque, which like it all is just repeating, and all of these influence. And now people are being influenced by companies that were influenced by Seven Fingers 3 generations ago, and they don't even realize that's where it comes from, which isn't, I'm not such a like, oh, you need to pay your dues to the people who came before you and all that. It's not out of ego, but it is out of like, perhaps if they knew and there was an actual recorded history of what they're referencing, they would understand better how to go in a different direction. But all of that said, I think there is new interesting stuff all the time. I think the places you have to look to find it change. I think like
it's true, because like what the scenes that are contemporary at one point might morph into now it's the legit scene where everybody goes. So now it's not necessarily like the new crazy stuff that comes here.
It becomes a market.
It's become a market, and then it changes. That's true.
Like there is a fantastic export of, this is going to sound dismissive, but there's a fantastic export of Seven Fingers themed circus out of Montreal, which is not to say that's all that's happening. There's amazing, great work being done there, but also there's like, that's a market that Seven Fingers helped define. And now those theaters need shows to fill them. And
there's circuits that exist, and now they're just looking to like keep.
And I think that now is a market in the same way traditional circus is a market. Like, but if you look to that place and you don't see anything new, that might be why. Is because it's been defined. People have figured out, okay, well, this is the scale and size and style of show that we need to play these theaters and these dance festivals and these art festivals. And people have figured out what kind of show that market requires.
You're right.
Which sounds cynical, but like everything has to exist in a market. Like
we are in a capitalistic world that does function like that. And once you do create a market, then you have to fill it up. Like
every show needs to exist within constraints. There's, like making a 4-hour piece of circus is just not incredibly practical, even if that feels like the truest expression of whatever it is that you want to do. You just won't be able to perform that in many places. Like, I don't think it's a coincidence that there are so many circus shows that are the magic 52 minutes long or whatever Sean Cannini says. Like, it doesn't just so happen that someone's perfectly encapsulated expression of what they want to say is 52 and a half minutes long. That's just how long shows need to be to play in theaters in huge parts of the world and festivals. I don't know. I don't really know what I was trying to say there. But, no. I think there is having a formal history in circus would enable people to better understand.
How do you do that with an ephemeral life, with an ephemeral art form? Because, like, music, well, you can put it on a tape and then you can listen to it anytime. Obviously, cinema is made to be watched on a screen. Even an opera, like I really love what they do with the Met Opera in New York, where they professionally like tape and record some, and then you can go and see them throughout North America in theaters. But it's like one day, one time, and then you go, and so they're not available all the time, but like they release it, and so it is enjoyable. You can actually enjoy an opera that's that's live, but it's recorded. I've never enjoyed a circus or a juggling show on YouTube.
Really?
No. The emotion that I have when I see it live is like 100 times stronger.
Oh, totally. But I mean, sometimes you have no choice.
I know, but it's like, for me, it's important to I know that my art form, or at least the way I perceive my art form in juggling, is that it is live and it is meant to be experienced live.
And there are stakes, and there are
exactly.
I totally understand that.
You capture it, and even if you have a professional crew and you make cuts and you do this and that, now it's not live, and you lose something essential. And I feel like, for me, circus is an art form that is meant to be experienced live. It just changes everything when you're present.
I think that's definitely true, but I must say, like, because I grew up in a pretty remote area, and even in Australia has an amazing, vibrant circus scene, especially contemporary circus. There's some interesting stuff happening there for sure, but not many people are making juggling shows in Australia, especially even more so 10, 15 years ago. People aren't making juggling shows. And so the only option I had for years to see anything, it was like either I get a Dropbox link, I managed to convince someone to send me some archival video of their show, or I see nothing. And so I feel like, I totally understand what you're saying, but I feel so strongly of like, I always, people have emailed me before and I've sent them archival links of shows because I'm like, I've been there. I totally, like, that was my only way of getting any influence of seeing juggling work. And even now still, like, I see as much as I can, but I live in America. I live in Vegas. People aren't doing hour-long juggling shows here. And
now they are. I am.
You are.
I am. I'm starting.
That's true. I got to come around Studio Noir. That's my only chance to see an hour-long juggling show.
Yeah.
Oh, you're so right.
Yeah, and now they are. No,
but you know what I mean? Like, I just, I have a strong feeling about that because, like, I was so hungry to see stuff growing up.
Yeah. And so I mean,
but I'm not. I know what you're saying. I know it's so much better in person. It's incredible.
And I did too. Like, I obsessed over some of the act. For example, like Victor Key's act in Dralion. I've watched this 1,000 times to understand like the rhythm, the construction of the act, the melody of how he built it, and also I was watching his video before when he was performing at the Lido, and then the earlier one to compare what did the Cirque du Soleil changed, why, and then that really helped me understand how do you build a juggling act. So,
and also just to say, like I said, I grew up watching those Cirque du Soleil DVDs. Yeah. That's awesome that they put their shows on DVD and commercially release them. I could buy that in a DVD store in the nearest city to where I grew up. What the hell? No one's doing that now. That's amazing. And that is like, I think that's a huge part of why they have had such an enormous influence. Right. I mean, they've had an influence on the world because they're huge, but on circus artists, there are generations of circus artists who grew up watching Cirque du Soleil VHS and DVD.
That's a good point.
And like, not many other companies are doing that.
That's a good point.
With their live product that's still touring. I have no idea how that business decision worked out for them, but I'm always going to be grateful that they did that.
Yeah.
Because, like,
yeah.
At least I could watch those.
I guess we're I guess we're seeing this from different perspective of like, as a tool, the video is great. And I agree with you, because I also had some VHS or some things, and I used that. I don't think my position is like being a purist and be like, I will not watch circus unless it's live.
But even when it's live,
when it's live, it's so different.
Yeah.
And for me, performing live means something so completely different, because I know that when I'm doing it live, I don't know if I'm going to catch the ball or not. I don't know if I'm going to succeed. I want to, but I don't know. And then when I do drop, now I'm in a place where I completely modify and improvise around the drop, and I include the drop in my act. So I modify the routine to include whatever drops happen, therefore creating a unique show for the people that are there tonight. And if you come see the show, even the second show of the night, it's not going to be the same performance. I'm not going to feel the same. I'm probably not going to drop in the same place. Maybe I won't drop, and then it's going to be a completely different perspective. Maybe I'll drop 3 times. And that creates something unique of like, and also just, being in person, you have this connection with the audience happening where like they can connect to you and how you feel, and then however you feel will influence what you do and will influence the audience. And we're not machines, and I'm never trying to reproduce an act the same. I'm always looking at, it's funny because like now I'm looking at it as I work really hard to create a template with a choreography, with a story in my head, or a character with an emotion through line, and then with tricks. But then once I go on stage, everything goes to, all of that disappears. And it's here now, and I'm tapping into what I created to guide me. But in a way, whatever happens now in the room with this audience is superior to what I planned on doing. And will take the lead. And I will never try to force what I planned over what's really happening in the room.
Totally.
Which is more like the clown side of things. That's what I learned in the learning clown, where you really have to listen and respond to what's real. And I'm trying to do that with the juggling. So use the juggling as my language of expression, but using more the rules of clowning when I'm on stage.
Cool.
So that's why for me, like, performing live just changes everything.
100%. I mean, and what I've seen of your work that follows that more like live responsive feeling, it's great. It reads.
Thanks.
I love it.
Thanks.
It's I like that way of putting it too. I hadn't thought about it like that, taking the rules of clowning but using juggling as the language.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
I think that's really interesting. There are other people. Are there other people doing that? There's got to be other, like...
No, I'm the only one in the world.
No, I'm just trying to rack my brain of like, I feel like I've seen, like semi-improvised pieces of juggling, but it's maybe coming from a slightly different place. Not so much the clowning philosophy, perhaps.
Mm-hmm. I must admit that the last, I don't know how long I've been on this path, but like the last part of my path has been very looking inside. So I haven't really looked outside for influence. I did that a lot when I was younger. Like obviously, like the first 10, 15 years of my career, I was sucking in everything that, oh, this is amazing. I'm going to get that influence. And so I have plenty of influences of other amazing artists, jugglers and clowns and circus performers. But for the past, I don't know how long, maybe 10 years, I've stopped watching, or no, I keep looking, but I stopped getting influenced by what's happening out from outside, and I'm trying to bring it out of me. because I feel like that's the best way to do my own thing and not reproduce something else. And there's nothing wrong in reproducing, because that's how you learn. Like, that's how I learn, you know, like, oh, this is amazing. Let me try to do an act in this genre. So I'm not going to copy the act, but I'm going to try to make one in that style, and then one in this style, and then in that style. And then over time, I'm mastering those different ways. And now I've been really trying to, I don't know, like, pull the thread of like, how is it that I'm seeing juggling? And so I couldn't tell you if other people do that, because I'm not really looking into that.
And I think by doing that and making a lot of different kinds of work, you do start to figure out your voice.
Yeah.
Because you realize there's a common thread, no matter how differently you make your act for corporate shows.
Yeah.
Then you make your act for a Spiegel tent, and then you make another act to perform at a juggling festival twice. And you realize there is a voice between all of those things that's shared. Yeah. And I found that a super helpful process for me. Yeah. To figure out what is kept in common between all of these things. And
I guess
you're right. Through trial and error what you value.
Yeah. I guess you're right. You're right. I feel like that's really how you learn. And in juggling, I mean, just to learn a trick, it's so much easier to learn a trick when you see someone else doing it, because it just shows you that it's possible. So then you're in your brain, suddenly you're like, I wonder if it's possible. You're like, oh no, clearly it's possible. Someone's doing it. So
it's the same watching performances too. You can watch someone perform you can watch an act and be like, shit, juggling can be that. Like, I remember I can hit you with some really specific moments. Like, when I was 16, I saw a video of Kellen Quinn's IJA act that he did with 3 clubs to breeze blocks. And I was like, that was a crazy moment. Because in my mind, you know, then for years before that as a kid, I'd had like, okay, well, you've got interesting 3 club, like arty juggling was what it was in my mind. And then you've got entertaining juggling that sells. Right. And like we were saying before, like those were for some reason, I held those as very separate. And then I saw a video of Kellen's act and I was like, damn, you can do cool, techie, unique 3 club juggling that is built around movement and is expressive and also is just rips. It's a sick act to watch. It makes you feel excited. That was crazy. And so that was a massive influence on me. And then I saw Kyle Driggs do his Rings and Umbrellas act in Australia when I was like 19. And it was slow and beautiful and considered live. He came and did it. That was a huge light bulb moment. Like, I was like, damn, juggling can be like that and can make me feel like that. Yeah. And there's just so many all the time. Yeah. You see something and you're like, it's like watching someone do a trick. Yeah. You're like, oh, it can be like this. Yeah. I didn't know that was allowed.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. I've always struggled with a lot of like competition for like watching other juggler like kill it. Always made me feel like bad because it reflects of like, oh shit, like you can be that good. Yeah. I need to be that good, you know, because of the...
Do you mean in technique or of the quality of their act?
No, it's more the quality of the act, I would say. That I've always thought the technique is a means to an end. For me, my juggling technique is my excuse to come on stage and be on stage. But the primary reason is that I want to be on stage. I want people to look at me and think I'm awesome. That's the primary reason. I've always loved being on stage and being seen, whatever, you know, for whatever reason. And then, as you said, juggling is really cool. So you come and you do a cool trick. Now you have a justification for coming and being on stage. I'm not just on stage because I'm egocentric. I'm on stage because I'm going to do a cool thing. But the truth is, the reason is that I'm egocentric. That's why I go on stage. You know, it's like it's an interesting thought process for me because like recently I've been starting to do this one-man show and I've gone through a massive emotional growth period around that because like, you know, I've always been part of shows. So I've always been a solo juggler, but part of a show. So like when I'm part of a show, the audience comes in and sees this whole show. And then I'm one of the element of the show, and I'm trying to do my best, and I'm trying to be one of the strong act of the show so that people remember. It's like, oh, fuck, the Juggler was really good in that show. But if I'm not that good, well, I'm not the only one. I'm kind of sharing the responsibility of entertaining an audience with the other artists, even though I'm a solo on stage at that moment, but before me and after me and all that. When you do a solo one-man show, you're the only reason why people are coming. Like, so in my mind, I was like suddenly realizing, like, I need to believe that when people come see my one-man show, I'm worth it. You know?
Yeah.
Because it's like, if I'm not, then there's nothing else. Like, there's nothing else. There's nothing before me. There's nothing after me. You're coming here in this room to just see me.
Yeah.
And nothing else. And there's not even a partner on stage that I can share the responsibility with, being like, well, he wasn't great because, like, he's not that great. Or, you know, like...
And what I find interesting... Like, I relate to that. And what I find interesting is, like, you would have thought it would work in the other direction. You'd be there looking out through the crowd thinking, fuck yeah, these people are here to see me.
No.
I'm a rock star. And for some reason, that's not how it works.
I'm fucking terrified, man.
I don't know why. Yeah. But like, these people have, you know, for whatever, like, they've decided to come see Cyril's show, and that isn't enough to make you feel like you're worth it. They've proven to you that you're worth it. They're here for you.
It's you're right. Like, logically, it makes sense, but
that's not how our brains work.
It's not how it works. Like, for me, from within, I'm like, damn, like, I better be worth it. It's putting the bar so much higher than ever before. So
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
And this is because I haven't had a chance to see your show yet. I was out of town. Why, when, and how do you first juggle in your show? Because this is something I find so difficult, making a show of juggling. Like, if I'm a 5-minute act in a show, I don't have to answer that question.
Right.
Because the audience came in and there was a host, and then there was like an acrobat, and then there was an aerialist, and then there was burlesque, and now there's me.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I'm just the next thing in a series of things.
Right.
And so I come out on stage and I just start juggling, and people are like, oh, okay, it's a juggler.
Yeah.
But if you're doing your own show, how do you provide that context that enables you to just start juggling on stage and people to be cool with it?
Yes.
You know?
So originally, I was juggling only like 7 or 8 minutes into the show, because the first, I guess, 7-8 minutes was establishing the character, because I'm talking, so like talking to the audience, establishing the game of the show, what's going to happen, and therefore telling them I'm going to be juggling and blah, 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 blah. And then I start juggling. And then my agent, Dory, looked at this and was like, you're juggling like 7-8 minutes into the show. It's way too long. Like, we need to see juggling. And then she gave me a really good idea. So now I have a moment of intro where, like, I put a music, and then my character comes on stage with the music and kind of like grooves on that music, and there's a little gimmick, and then I do some juggling there right away.
Cool.
So I come in.
And people buy it?
Love it.
Yeah, cool.
Because I do just like a hard trick. Like, I have 4 balls in each hands, and then I'm grooving on the music, and then at one point there's like a gimmick with the music, and then I do 4 balls on one hand, catch them, awesome. Another gimmick, 4 balls on the other hand, catch them, and then boom, 8 balls for a little bit, stop with the music, toss them away, and then just to set the bar and be like, you're gonna see some fucking juggling. This is what's gonna happen, because people see that, I was like, oh shit, okay.
Yeah.
And it creates a perspective of like, all right, this guy knows how to juggle. He's just like, there's so many balls that I can't even count them. And then I can...
And you buy some trust.
Yeah. Establishing a baseline.
Yeah.
And now I can go into the character, talk, blah, 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 and have that all intro where the actual juggling act comes later, but right away. So basically right away.
Cool.
Which was not my idea. I thought I would totally fine, but my Dory caught it, and she's right. She was right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I mean, this this is a problem we hit when we were trying to start Escalate.
Yeah.
This is something that I helped my friend Jay work on a couple of his more recent shows, and this is something we were going in circles in. It's like one of these things that once you start thinking about it too much, you just go insane.
Yeah.
It's like you walk on stage and you start juggling, but why? If you're in a variety show, the reason why, you don't have to answer the question.
You are a
why.
juggler, so you do that.
But if you're a guy, if you're just a person on stage, what's that about?
It's a good point. I've always thought like juggling is my language. So the balls are a part of me. The props are an extension of my body. And in a way, by seeing it like that, I'm just bypassing the whole psychological why. There's no why. It's just part of me.
Yeah.
So it's like I always have.
Why are you wearing that shirt?
Exactly.
Why are you, it just is.
It is. And so I see it like that. And I think by me seeing it like that, it probably translate to the audience. Oh, that's what it is. You know what I mean? Like
totally.
Sometimes if you just, I mean, that's that. And especially with this show, which is like highly improvised, like the juggling routines are not written, and the idea is that I have 100 songs, playlist of 100 songs, and then the audience randomly chooses the music.
Cool.
So that's what's guiding the thing. So I can't create 100 different juggling act on 100 different songs. Like, like it's 1 hour of juggling is like months of getting down. Like 100 songs, it's like, it's just insane.
Yeah.
And I can't even maintain that repertoire of juggling act, even if I wanted to. So basically I improvise. So I know what style, am I doing contact juggling, 3-ball juggling, number juggling, and then I have like ideas, but then I just improvise the act. So it's highly improvised. And I realize if I perform an improvised routine with confidence after the show, people do not know that it was improvised. They don't actually, most people don't believe me when I tell them like, no, that was completely improvised. They're like, nah, no way.
Totally.
And it doesn't mean that I don't know the music. So I know the music, therefore I know the cues, therefore I know the flow. And now I'm good enough with my juggling technique to have more like a repertoire, like in dancing,
Totally.
like you have a repertoire of movement, and then you tap into them knowing the music, and then you can get in sync with the music. And that's how I work now, because it's like an hour of juggling for me is way too long to learn by heart. That's why I'm like really impressed about what you're doing, of having written like a partition, like a score of juggling. This, I think, I have a pretty terrible memory, and therefore like it's really hard for me to learn things by heart. And even my own thing, like I'm writing the banter for my show. I'm writing it and I'm having a hard time remembering what I wrote, Yeah. And so anyway, so I do that now with the banter and with the juggling. Is like I have a structure, but then I just let myself like flow within that structure, because it's just who I am. Basically, I'm just, listening to who I am and going with this. But
I use improvisation a lot when I'm composing.
Yeah.
That's especially when it's harder in groups, obviously, but when I'm solo, I do a lot of improvisation and pull the best bits out of that. And that's how
So do you record yourself when you do that? Do you just remember?
I will improvise. Usually I'll improvise for quite a while.
Yeah.
And then I'll just have a feeling of like, oh, that moment was cool and that moment was cool, and I'll riff on those for a while, and then I'll set up a camera and film a bunch of variations on what I just did. If I'm putting together a piece to specific music, I'll improvise to the music, or I'll have something set for 30 seconds and then try and just feel what the next 30 seconds is. And then I just go repeat and iterate, and very slowly, almost sedimentarily, the layers of what is permanent build up on top of each other.
Yeah.
But I don't often improvise on stage. And I don't know if I could tell you why. It's just, I think honestly, it's the process of writing and of building layers of fixed material is something I really enjoy.
For sure.
And when I'm making a piece that's like the part of the process I look forward to, is I find it so satisfying to build up one catch at a time. Like out of all the possible choices, what feels like the strongest choice of what should happen after this catch. And I find that process very thorough and very
I agree
enjoyable.
with you, and that's when that translates to the moment of the performance and the live aspect of the performance.
That could change.
I feel that whatever happens then is the strongest choice.
Totally.
Even though the technical choice and the stronger choice from a visual or technical perspective might be different.
Yeah.
And that's where, for me, the improvisation started coming, is when I realized, like, oh yeah, like intellectually or like logically, that's the best choice. But today, on that moment, with how I feel and with this audience and with the light and whatever the fuck, what came out spontaneously was clearly the better option. This concept started when I realized that my best shows were not when I was doing a perfect routine. When I had no drops, 0 drop, were not my best shows. My best shows was 1 drop.
Totally.
Because it creates that thing with the audience, and now suddenly the stakes are much higher because the audience is like, oh shit, he can drop.
Yeah.
If you don't drop at all, then there's this thing of like, the audience doesn't know the difficulty. Even if if you do something crazy thing, they might be like, well, that looks really hard. But the goal for me to juggle is not to show the audience that, look, what I'm doing is really hard. Like, that's not my angle.
It introduces stakes. They become aware that it could go wrong.
Yes. And therefore, if a mistake can make my act better and stronger, therefore, suddenly you're like, what about all those other choices that I'm making that I'm thinking like, well, that's clearly the stronger choice, but the proof is that, well, no, when you do drop and it's not planned, not a fake drop, like at a real drop, that makes my act stronger. So then it broke all that. I realized like I can't just translate it on stage. Like I have to keep, like, you're right, like working on act and building them is awesome. But then somehow when you go on stage, like all of that just disappears. And therefore I started giving more space to improv and started leaning more into that until the point I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go on stage and I have no fucking clue what I'm going to do. And that's what I started doing in the juggling fests a couple of years ago here in the US, and all the way to like the IGA last year, of just showing up on stage and not having a plan.
Cool.
And be like, I'll just get my bag of balls and put 40 balls on stage and do whatever I feel like doing.
That's cool. I hope to have that self-assuredness one day. That's really cool.
I'm still terrified, to be honest. Like when I'm doing it, I'm still terrified. But I'm like, I did enough shows to know that I know how to entertain people. And obviously I have tricks that, I know they're going to come up. Like, it's not like I'm lobotomizing myself to be like, I don't know. It's like I go in and I know that language. So I'm like, but I'm trying to listen to the audience and feel like, where are they taking me? A little bit like the clown thing of like, what do they want? Where are they taking me? Do they like this? No. Okay, I'll do something else then. Oh, they like that. All right, let's go there. And be in that flow. Because once again, if you kind of design the act for that audience, and I thought that's very exciting. It's kind of like but whatever. Like it's still terrifying and it's still really hard to do, no matter what.
Yeah. As I like that. I like the way you were talking about improvisation just now, because it's not something I've ever focused on, or I think even really valued in my skill set, is improvising on stage. But you make a good case.
Yeah, because you're doing
and I like
this
your work
already when you build the act. What you just described to me of looking for it and keep going and then making a decision, all of that is valid. But what if you stop at the step of like, well, there's really those like 3-4 variation that I really like. One of them is going to be more efficient by 10% than the others, but actually I like this kind of variation. And then you keep all the options. And then depending on how you feel, well, you go there or there or there. Kind of like make your own adventure type of situation.
And good to get the feedback in real time too.
Yeah.
You know if you've made the right decision or not.
Yeah.
Very quickly.
And then at one point you start reading the room and knowing where the room is taking you. And honestly, like at one point you also just have to do what you want. Yeah. I mean, that's the funny part and the fun part with juggling is like there's no one right way to do it. We all have our own
It's another, like, it's like I was saying before, we don't have many institutions in circus, and especially not in juggling.
But do you think we need to?
No.
I mean, because I hear you what you're saying about the history of like knowing our history might be really helpful, actually.
I mean, I think it would change what we do. But we are at this moment now with juggling, with creative process. We don't have, when I'm making an act, I'm not doing the Gilligan technique for creation or the Ignatov technique for putting together an act. Like maybe we just have little shreds of those things now. Like people go to a workshop and, Patrick Elmnett will teach them some way of composing that they keep forever. But we don't have school. You can't go to a school and be like, oh yeah, I'm going to a juggling school where I'm going to study like the Driggs method. That's not a thing right now. And I think that, I don't know what the art form would be with it, but I think it puts us in a uniquely free place where everyone gets to determine what their creative process is. And we're all doing it in real time. We're figuring it out.
Yeah. Which I really like.
It's exciting.
It's a lot of freedom, but it is also very messy because of that. That's true.
And everyone comes into it from so many different places and brings different values. And no one is juggling for the same reason as anyone else. We all come from different. We bring different things with us.
That's the thing, because I mean that's a great place to plug my juggling school, Juggling Groove Academy.
Hell yeah!
I do. That's one of the core concept is like we're all different, and it's good. And there's as many different ways to juggle as there's jugglers, and so it's the goal. Even though I do have a school and I have a very specific juggling technique that I teach, I'm not looking to create soldiers that are all juggling the same. I'm trying to bring the juggling out of each of my students and get their personality and their color of juggling out of them. And then obviously, there's like ways to be efficient with 7 balls, for example. Like if you want to achieve high level of technique, there's clearly things that are going to help you do that. So that's what I teach, this methodology. But when it comes to the expression, the artistry, everybody's different. And even though I have a very strong conviction in how I do my juggling, I know that it's doesn't gonna fit everybody else, So I think it's interesting what you're saying about like having like the ability. It would be good because in dance, that's what they do, right? They go and they take a workshop with a dancer or a choreograph and they learn a style and then a quality of dancing. And then they're going to keep bouncing around and getting different teachers and choreographs and expand their repertoire like that. It would be interesting to have that more with juggling. For younger jugglers that want to be professional to get to. But I found resistance in that because I've offered that and I found that a lot of people tend to resist that, like, because I think juggling offers such a space of self-expression that also I think jugglers want to protect that. And I understand it.
For sure. I mean, I think I wouldn't even necessarily say it's a weakness of juggling that we don't have this institutionalized knowledge. It's just, we just don't have it. And that's, you can, I think a great strength of that is it does like allow more space for individual expression. And also we're writing, like, juggling as a discipline is relatively young. Juggling as an art form is very young. And I think that's really exciting. We're writing that.
Do you think juggling is? I mean, isn't there like hieroglyph in the...
Yeah, they got like hieroglyphs. People have been doing the activity of juggling for a long time.
Don't you think they were like performing?
I mean, this is a big... I'm going to paraphrase them and totally get all the details wrong, I think. But this is a big like Eric Olbery thing, and Jay and like some people who've been looking into the... like really academically looking into the history of juggling.
But it's a live art form, so how the fuck do you know, right? Because it's like it's live.
Yeah. But I know that with like Eric's best efforts, he found people doing the activity of juggling as an individualized activity for a few thousand years, like hopping things between hands.
Yeah.
But like, I think people doing it as a performance where you do different kinds of juggling began with, I don't know, like Cinquevalli or something, maybe before that, but like that's within the last 130 years.
Yeah.
And then...
because that's only the recorded history we have of that.
For sure. But
I have a feeling like, you know, like medieval time, like 1200 in France.
Yeah.
Going around in caravans and with the freaks and the bear, and there's
I think
probably
people
was
juggled.
a juggler in there, right?
People juggled, yeah. But I think whatever
Like
Eric's point was, like they juggled that was an individual one. They would juggle and then they would do the trick with the bear and then they would do the magic trick.
Right.
Like it was just one thing.
It was not necessarily
You were not a juggler.
Right.
And I'm sure I'm getting all of Eric's details wrong. But you know, his whole academic thrust
His book is
like,
amazing, by the way, like on Cinquevalli.
Oh, Cleverer Than God. Best
Amazing.
Title ever given to a book.
Yes.
I think Cleverer Than God goes so hard as a title. That's crazy.
And that book is phenomenal.
It's fantastic.
And that work they're doing is awesome over there.
Yeah.
At the Vaudeville Press, right?
That's Tom Wall's.
Yeah.
Did they publish it through Vaudeville Press? Cool.
Fucking amazing.
What a collab.
Yeah. Sorry.
But just the exciting thing is juggling's so new. And, you know, depending on what you define as an art form, like he makes a pretty conversing argument for juggling as an art form existing in that context for only maybe 40 years or 50.
Yeah.
And so we're so fresh. We're writing it right now.
Yeah.
Like, you know, we've got the Rabath choreographic method. People are going to be watching this podcast in 50 years.
Oh, maybe that would
and they're going to be they're going to be writing the histories of like, oh yeah, you know, the Rabath method that everyone teaches now in their circus schools. Like, I think it's so exciting. We're doing it now. There's there's not much that we're building on the shoulders of giants for sure. Yes. But the giants aren't stacked anywhere near as high as they are in some other art forms.
Yeah.
And I think that's so exciting. Like, we're doing it. I love that.
This is a very good point. I think I was seeing it differently, of thinking like, you know, juggling has been there for thousands of years, but you're right, not as like an individual juggler making a life out of it, but as a trick, one of the trick in someone's repertoire of tricks. So that's very different, because I've always thought like juggling's been around much longer than circus. Circus was born in like 1800s, and like literally there was no circus before then. It was like the freaks, the troubadours, the menagerie. Yeah, it was so, and then it became like the circus round, like the circle and the circus in the 1800s. And so I've always thought like, well, jugglers are like part of the circus because right now it's one place we can perform, but we've always been around. We've always found other groups and other stages and other places to do that. So I feel a little snub about the circus sometimes, where I'm like, well, we're part of it now, but you know, we've been
but we might jump ship.
We
might join forces with the magicians again.
Yeah. or we might create our own art form. Like it might become juggling, as you know, there's opera and there's theater and there's juggling. We'll see where that goes.
I hope.
Man, do you have anything in mind you wanted to share with the world before we wrap this up? What are your next steps? Right now you're performing at Absent.
Yes.
And in different ventures that Spiegelworld is doing. You're doing your own show. What's the next thing?
It's a good question. I mean, in the immediate future, I'm mostly sticking to Absinthe, and doing a lot of gigs and traveling quite a bit. But I mean, yeah, with Byron and Richard and Sam and Throwcatch Collective back in Australia, where we're very slowly working on a new show of some description. We had a few weeks together in the middle of the year this year, and we'll get together again and do another residency, probably not for another few months, but that's been a really fun process because we're all kind of busy at the moment. Escalate, we still perform sometimes, but it's only being performed really maybe a month or two out of each year.
Which is amazing.
It's good
performing a juggling show is phenomenal. I just want to validate that. Yeah, like it's fucking awesome.
We're very proud.
Yeah, you should.
But we all have our main gigs
careers
right now.
And
so it's kind of nice. It's taken the pressure off a bit.
Yeah,
we know we want to make something together, and we know how we want it to feel, but we're just doing it whenever we are in the same place.
Yeah,
and it's been fun to like revisit the conversation every couple of months. So that's plugging away. I know I would like to make something longer solo, and I think I'm slowly figuring out what that is.
Yeah,
but something really long form I think would be interesting.
Yeah. What does it mean long form? 20, 45, an hour?
Somewhere between 30 and an hour.
30 an hour.
But there's a musician I really like, Phil Elverum, who goes by Mount Erie. He's a folk musician from Washington. And he released a song a few years ago called The Microphones in 2020, which is a sort of a bit of a retrospective on his band, The Microphones. But it's a song, it's a single piece of music that's 45 minutes long.
Oh, wow.
And when I love his music, so I was ready to love it. But it was crazy to me. It really is a 45-minute song. And it just takes everything about composing a song and stretches it to be on a much longer time scale.
Super cool.
And it's not slower necessarily. Like it's not like it's just a slowed down 5 minutes. It's got evolutions, and it just goes to so many crazier places than a song ever could in 5 minutes.
For sure.
But it's a 45-minute single piece of music.
So that's an inspiration.
That's a huge inspiration. And there are a few other references I'm carrying around.
And how would you translate? Yeah, how would you? Now the whole question is, how do you translate that into juggling?
Because I love making acts. And
I know.
I have made so many pieces that are 3 to 7 minutes long.
Yeah.
And that's where I feel like I have built up such a technique.
I mean, that's what we were talking earlier about. Like, there's a reason why a juggling act in the circus is between 3 and 7 minutes.
It's like a structure.
There's a structure. And then you can try to make a juggling that's 12 minutes, but you might be the best juggler in the world. Minute 12, it sucks. It's just too long. You know? It's just too long. And,
totally.
Yeah.
But I've never been interested in making a solo show ever. It's never been on my radar. But
ever, even as a kid.
Oh, as a kid, I wanted to, but I think I wanted to because I liked the idea of having a solo show. I don't think I actually wanted to make.
That's what I'm realizing now with my solo show.
Yeah.
Is that I'm remembering doing the solo show, and I came in kind of like I stumbled upon it because my agent was like, "You want to do a cruise ship?" I was like, "Yeah, sure. I don't have any job right now, so I need something." And she was like, "Okay, you need to solo show. Okay, how long can you build a solo show?" I was cocky. I was like, "Give me 3 weeks." And then she sold it. And then I was like, screwed. I have to do a solo show. And then I started, and then I was like, oh yeah, I really want to do that. So now I'm doing it, and I'm remembering when I was like 6, 7 years old, the dream was to do a fucking solo show. So it's like the child in me in a way that's like that. So I've completely lost track of that for like most of my adult life, but I'm realizing no, there is a part of me that wanted that very young, like a kid, like just dreaming and like, wow. And
when I was 17, I had my solo show written out. But so it's exciting. I had never, in my sort of adult performing life, it was something that had never interested me. But
there's a root somewhere. There's a spark somewhere.
Yeah. And again, like my friend Jay Gilligan just gave me, like, he planted this seed that I just cannot get rid of now. A year or two ago, where I was talking about for some reason I like creating solo acts, but I can't create a solo show. And he's like, make a half-hour act. And I was like, oh shit.
And then this music is like showing you like, yeah, it's
yeah.
possible.
And it was the time I was listening to this piece of music a lot, and I was like, oh damn. Now I have to do that.
Yeah.
It's too good. It's really got its grips in me. Who knows? I don't know if it'll ever come about, but my God, trying to make a piece of juggling that long, it's a lot of juggling to make.
It is.
And it's been so helpful now.
It is.
In my life, I'm trying to like focus on 3 clubs, and whether or not this thing ever exists, I have so much 3 club material now.
Yeah.
It's the most 3 club material I've made in 5 years.
Right.
And now I'm like, it's all documented, it's all on video. And so if nothing else, it's been the most incredible exercise in generating material.
That's interesting.
Without a sense of how it's going to fit together yet.
Yeah.
And that's been awesome.
Which is so much good, fun. Right? It's fun to create material too without a goal, without a purpose.
It's been a long time since I've done it.
Yeah. I know, right?
Because we get so used to making things for contexts and for
when
reasons.
You think about it, when you learn, you're like, you're a butterfly and like, oh, let's do a little bit of that. And then I used to want to learn anything and everything. And then at one point I'm like, no, this is me as a juggler. I do that. That's my technique. So it's becoming very like this instead of being like open. And I feel like finding those moments again of like just exploration and trying is very inspiring. And sometimes it's hard when you become a professional juggler and you have a profession, therefore you need to deliver, you need to create an act, you need to be more performative and with a goal. Then it limits those moments of, again, being a butterfly and just be like, oh, I'll try this, I'll try that, and let's...
And you have to manage time in a way that I never would have expected when I was a kid. But that began even when I was at university. It was just like, fuck, well, I know I have to do this act in 2 months, and I know it has to be new, and I know I have, like, between now and then, I have 15 hours to spend on it.
Wow.
So it's like, shit, we have to really figure out a process here.
Yeah.
And slowly that just bleeds into how you work in your life.
Yes.
And you get so used to...
And how you practice, and how you're efficient in your practice, and then you do shows, so you warm up for the show. So the warm-up is not a creative space. It's just you're getting ready for a show. I think that's what you were talking a little bit earlier when you were saying, like, okay, you do your practice, and then you do a show, and then you go home, and then you do some 3 balls jamming, and describing, like, those being completely different
they're
spaces.
Totally different activities in my mind. Like,
this is inspiring for me to hear, to be like, yeah, you can have those. Because at one point I had to, I feel like in the circus community in France, we have a whole system in France, like the intermittence du spectacle, which is takes care of artists, which is awesome.
It's amazing.
The downside of that is, if I can bitch about my own system, which is 95% fucking amazing, but there's a little downside, is that you can then get into a system that then you can have a comfortable life as an artist, and therefore you don't necessarily need to like push the boundaries the way you would have to do if you're like in survival mode.
That's interesting.
If you see what I mean.
I see what you mean, but I would have said, just as an outside observer, a lot of the most interesting juggling I see is coming from France right now.
Also because you have that safety net, and you can focus, but not everybody does it. And so I was, in the circus community in France, I've always telling myself like, no, keep pushing hard, never rest on your laurels, like never feel comfortable, just keep pushing. And the keep pushing translated into like, when I juggle, it's serious. I have to get better. I have to work on the technique. I have to work on this. I have to work on that. And then at one point I'm losing the playfulness of like just being curious and trying shit just for trying, like the mindset got a little rigid around like, I'm a professional juggler. I need to prove to myself and to the world that I am a professional juggler. So I feel like I was in reaction to something instead of necessarily being more in flow. But I'm finding that flow again a little bit in my own way. And it's inspiring to hear you say that, like you might be juggling 3 different times during the day and they're going to be in different spaces and fulfilling different aspects of when you want to get out of juggling.
I always think of like Doug and Noah, who we worked with at Absinthe.
Yeah.
They do the trio act that I was part of for a long time, and they, especially recently, they've been going crazy. They're breaking world records together during the show.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, they've broken so many ball passing world records during the show at Absinthe.
Wow.
Down in the warm up room. After they've done the act.
Yeah.
And they always they've been training ball passing together during the show for years.
Yeah.
Or I'm like sitting there on my phone or something, and they're passing 18 balls.
Yeah.
But I think it's so awesome. It feels like a similar thing to me. Like, we go to work, we go to Absinthe to do this trio act together, which is near the top of the show. It's early. And so we arrive, we get into our costume, we warm up for 20, 30 minutes, we do the act. And they're like itching to get through that stuff. They've got to do the work juggling so that then as soon as we finish the act, they've got their training clothes with them, so they don't even have to stop in the dressing room on the way to go back to the training room, so that then they can do the fun juggling.
Yeah.
And that's such a clear example to me of the same thing.
Yeah.
They're doing ball passing in our act on stage, and still that is a different activity.
Yes.
That's the work stuff.
Yes.
And we enjoy it. It's a great privilege to do that act.
Sure.
It's a fun time. But they're especially when they're close to breaking a record, it's so awesome to be in that environment, because they're buzzing. They want to finish the act so they can get downstairs and do the real ball passing,
right?
Not just the stuff that we have to do to get paid. And I think that's that is so incredible. That's such a great attitude.
That's awesome. Well, Joe, thank you so much for coming and chatting and doing this. And
dude, it's been a pleasure.
Yeah.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you for having me.